Hey, welcome to the No State Project channel. I'm Mark Stevens and want to talk about what is anarchy, what it is not, and it is not being a fanboy to politicians. That is for certain. And if you'd like to help support the channel, if you like the material, and I'm doing my best to get more material out more frequently and hopefully start a live stream again a few times a week, then you can do so in the description. I have new shirts available, but still, if you want the homemade one here in Mesa, Arizona, all made in the United States, made by an anarchist to help support the big show, then you can do so by going into the description and the other merchandise. Of course, you're still able to get ebooks. You don't have to go to the Amazon link, but you can also go to my PayPal link and you can get the audio. You can get Government Indicted there. So let's jump right into this. What is anarchism? Well, just so that I can trigger a few of the people out there, because I think it's a really stupid thing, I'm going to use Wikipedia, mostly because I like the aesthetics of it. But remember, everything on Wikipedia is going to be footnoted. And when I'm talking about something like anarchism, I think if I was going to give a bad definition of it, it would be really easy to prove. So if you think I'm giving a bad definition here, let me know in the comments. Anarchism, or anarchy, is a political philosophy, a movement that is skeptic. I'm from Long Island. That's a tough one for me. It's a political philosophy. It's a political philosophy, a movement that is skeptical of all justifications for authority.
Hey, I'm a cop, and you will respect my authority.
And seeks to abolish the institutions they claim maintain unnecessary coercion and hierarchy, typically including, though not necessarily limited to, governments, nation states, and capitalism. Anarchism advocates for the replacement of the state with stateless societies or other forms of free associations. As a historically left-wing movement, usually placed on the farthest left of the political spectrum, it is usually described alongside communalism and libertarian Marxism as the libertarian wing of the socialist movement. And that depends on who you're talking to there. I came to anarchism because I reject the concept of having rulers, which is what the word actually means, is that there's no rules. Not that it means no rules. It does. It means no rulers. And the inherent social hierarchies that come with government types, and of course why capitalism is seen. And if you don't think that capitalism, as a lot of people understand it, if you don't think that that comes with an extremely powerful social hierarchy, you've never done business before. Let me tell you, my own personal experience here is no amount of talent, no amount of education, none of that. It doesn't matter. Even your reputation. You could have a spotless reputation. You could be the single best person in your field. You have no counter whatsoever to somebody with massive amounts of money. Nothing talks more in this world. Nothing has more leverage than massive amounts of money. Yeah, a gun may work, but it can't overcome massive amounts of money. So you'll always be able to just completely deluge people with cash and make them do pretty much anything that you want them to do. And because of that money, they have a hell of a lot more leverage than the average person does. So the more money you have, the more social leverage you have. And if you think for a second that business people don't exercise that leverage, you're out of your mind. I can tell you right now, from personal experience, it didn't matter how well I came. It didn't matter how well I structured a deal. None of it mattered. None of it mattered if somebody overwhelmed the other party with cash. There's no response. You have no defense to that. Someone just comes in, overwhelms the other party with cash, and you're toast. I mean, I've had people coming to me almost in tears because we were supposed to make a deal, and some rich douchebag overwhelmed them with cash. And they didn't know what to do. They couldn't buy. I can't believe how much money this guy's offering me. So that is social leverage, and that's part of the hierarchy. At least why I see a problem that I see with capitalism, that you have this power dynamic that only more money, and I mean only more money, can overcome. And if you've never been in that situation, you have no idea how unbelievably powerless people are when it comes to large, mind-numbing amounts of cash. So that is why I believe the social, the disparity in power, the leverage that money gives you, which is why a lot of anarchists will look at and rightfully criticize capitalism because of that social dynamic. You are powerless. And if you don't think that business people with a lot of money, if you don't think that they are as cutthroat and as cold-blooded as a politician, then you don't know what you're talking about. Because I have dealt with politicians of all stripes. I have dealt with bureaucrats, from police officers to prosecutors, a sitting Supreme Court justice. I've dealt with my share of politicians and bureaucrats. And I can tell you that business people are at least as cold-blooded. They will, my aunt had a saying that I didn't get as a kid. She said, they'll slit your throat for a nickel. And yes, people in business, that's why they use the phrase, oh, it's not personal, it's business. Okay? Because they don't care. They don't care. They don't need the money. They don't need to make the deal. They're more concerned with the power structure and making sure that you don't get it. So they'll ruin your life to make a deal where they don't even need the money. Okay, so that's enough about that. And I came to anarchism from an ethical standpoint, and that I believe that, we should treat others the way we want to be treated, and that we should first do no harm. And that, again, if you apply it to very rich people, that principle, just like people called government, business people violate that all the time. First, do no harm. We look at what OPEC is doing by cutting the production, driving up the cost of fuel, deliberately increasing the price of gas, which drives up the cost of everything that's being shipped. Then you have the rich people like BlackRock and the hedge funds deliberately driving up the real estate market, making rent at an all-time high. And I talked about this on another video. So there's no way that you can say that the people driving up the cost of real estate, that they're adhering to the principle of first do no harm, because they are. I mean, when you're talking about a room in Gilbert, Arizona, that's a room that rents for $1,300, and the average house in the Phoenix area renting for $2,800, we're not even talking about apartments here. So that's where I came in, and you could see in government and out, business people are just as callous. They're just as, they may not use guns, but they still use the leverage of money to get people to do what they want. That's right. That's what anarchism is. Do no harm, to be ethical, to not have a social hierarchy, or at least a violently installed and maintained one like government. And when you have in capitalism, where you have, like we have now, where you have a high concentration of wealth, where the average person doesn't stand a chance against them. They have the average rich person has far more social power than regular people like us. What anarchism isn't, I want to just talk about this for a bit, because this disturbing trend started when I was still doing the show. I've always criticized, and I believe rightfully criticized. I don't want to come out in public and make a video or do a radio show and do a stream and falsely accuse people. Politicians, just like people like billionaires and very rich people, deserve the criticism that is heaped upon them. They deserve it. And again, this isn't a deep dive into that. I'll have to do another video for that. I'm only giving a couple of examples here. What it's not is fanboy, being a fanboy for politicians. I have never been a fanboy for politicians. I do like Larry Krasner, and I did notice that recently they're trying to impeach him, which is hilarious, because here he is, a prosecutor who's actually doing the job who's actually prosecuting violent crime. The problem that they have, these Republican types, is that he's not prosecuting marijuana charges, and he's not prosecuting prostitution. And that is something that historically people who call themselves Republicans, law and order, dead set against. They love the drug war because they love the drug war, and they love the poor people like prostitutes getting arrested. Love filling up their, especially if they've got, this is another topic there too. They love anything that's going to fill up the privately maintained and owned prison system, which has to have like a 98% capacity. Yeah, so that's a whole other show. Although Jan Brewer was shown to have an interest in that in Arizona about 10 years ago. So what was disturbing to me, and still to this day, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why people who would follow my show, who, whether they were anarchist or not, would be fanboys and part of a cult of personality, especially, again, for somebody like this, Donald Trump? Really?
In the failing New York Times by an anonymous, really an anonymous.
Him? This guy? That's not what anarchism is. That's not even what republicanism, or even if you're a statist, that the love affair that, I mean, literally no way. I mean, to be so far up the rectum of this man, this horrible, vile individual, that nothing he does you can criticize. I mean, it's just like out of North Korea. That is, I mean, I was just under the impression people who follow the show were into things like anarchism and freedom and voluntary society, agorism, you know, that the A3 symbol I used to have on the shirt. But a small vocal minority of the show, unfortunately, from the very beginning, from 2016, when this vile mass murderer decided to run. And I say mass murderer because he is responsible for hundreds of thousands of premature deaths because he downplayed a deadly plague. And again, anarchism doesn't take a position on whether vaccinations are good or not. That's a scientific issue. That's not a political issue. So whether someone's anti-vax or not has nothing to do, as far as I can tell, it's got nothing to do with anarchism. But being a fanboy of a politician, yeah, that's like the least anarchist thing that I think I can think of. So if you're a fanboy of someone like Donald Trump, or you've gone down the Q hole, you're not an anarchist, you know, for whatever that's worth. And I do have to say, I've had people who I was very close to who unfortunately went down the Q hole, that vaccinations were going to be activated. And I think it was October 10th, some crazy stuff like this, and that JFK is still alive and all this nonsense, and Donald Trump is going to be the savior. Some people think it's a literal savior. That's not what anarchism is, never was, never will be. I wouldn't be an anarchist if it required any kind of fanboy, you know, being part of a cult of personality. I mean, I like Larry Krasner, but I wouldn't defend every action the guy takes. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But those who got on the Trump train, even self-proclaimed anarchists who were the most important philosophers of the last 2,000 years, jumping on the Trump train. And no, Trump and anarchism as far apart as you can get. So that's not what anarchism is. And I'm starting to give myself a headache by talking and actually looking at this guy. But I would put out that the only thing that we need to know to show that Donald Trump is not who he says he is, he's not this great person to be admired, is the fact he fundraises constantly. With the one thing we need to know, if we know no other facts about Donald Trump, and this is all we knew, we know he claims to be a billionaire. There is no question that that's an absolute fact. He claims to do that. That is an absolute verifiable fact. We know he has been fundraising since 2016. Verifiable fact. We know that he raised funds for his legal defense when he lost 62 out of 63 lawsuits about so-called election fraud. So knowing that he claims to be a billionaire and he's constantly fundraising, my gosh, you've got to be an idiot to think that this man is anything other than a grifter, anything other than a vile con man. People who are legitimately billionaires don't have to fundraise. I mean, it's that simple. Again, you're just not exercising any critical thought. You're not putting any kind of critical analysis into this. Not that it requires a whole lot. Billionaire, I'm a billionaire. I need money. How people can believe anything that comes out of this man's mouth after everything he has said the last 30 years is beyond my comprehension. I don't get it. That's going to do it for this particular video. I can only tolerate so much of this man before my brain starts to shut down. But if you'd like to help support the show, and I will put out a video soon about when I'm going to start doing a live stream again. So make sure that if you're not subbed, get subbed so you don't miss that. I think you have to hit the bell icon so that you know that I'm actually going live or when I do upload a video. And if you want to help support the show so I can do those streams, then you can get this shirt. You can get that shirt, or you can go into the description. You can get the books, and you can get other shirts that have the Mark Stevens No State Project on there, and that will help me be able to continue doing streams. So, hey, thanks for watching, and if you think that I'm wrong, leave the reason why. Leave an argument in there. If you think that it makes perfect sense why a billionaire would have to be constantly fundraising, let me know what your argument is in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching.